Hello and welcome to ENI UK and Europe Edition. I'm Jakarta Matera, reporting from London, and we'll be bringing you news reports from the United Kingdom and Europe. And we have live reporters joining us on standby, ready to give their reports. First up, the UK and European news roundup, with the UK government hitting back on virus test concerns. Barbados drops Queen Elizabeth II as head of state. Europe is urged to find a joint solution for migrants. And we look at Sweden's approach to COVID-19. To our live reporters, we are joined by Love and Season, who will report on the empty cruise ships becoming a tourist attraction in the UK ports. Also joining us, Ashley Espiritu, on how London theatres are reopening. We have a report also from EBC Germany on the Iglesia Ni Cristo youth members in Switzerland and Germany attending an online seminar on brotherhood. EBC Switzerland, Theodoline Baisa, reports on the Sigriswil suspension bridge, which is in Switzerland. And we have an EBC Sports update on how Dominic beat Alexander Zverev to win the US Open for his first Grand Slam title. But as always, we will end our show with our view from a window, which has the view of Lake Brünn on Eiselfeld in Switzerland. But first we go to the headlines. London residents are being turned away from a COVID-19 testing centre in the capital as increasing demands for coronavirus tests and delays in the system see people with symptoms unable to get tests and timely results. The revelation followed weekend reports of a backlog of 185,000 swab tests, and that the system was so stretched, samples were being sent to labs in Italy and Germany. The British government on Tuesday admitted increasing demand for coronavirus tests was posing problems after hospital bosses warned delays in the system were jeopardizing healthcare services. Staff absences in major cities had jumped as people tried to get tests, forcing them to stay off work and compounding delays to routine care that have worsened since the outbreak. According to the latest government statistics, more than 225,000 tests on average were carried out daily, while capacity was nearly at 375,000 tests per day on September 10. Britain, which has been the worst hit country in Europe, registering nearly 42,000 deaths, has seen a resurgence in the virus in recent weeks. More than 3,000 new cases were recorded on 3 consecutive days over the weekend, for the first time since May. News now on how Barbados has announced its intention to remove Queen Elizabeth II as its head of state and become a republic by November next year, as the Caribbean island nation seeks to move fully beyond its colonial past. The decision was formalized in the so-called throne speech delivered on behalf of Prime Minister Mia Mottley by the island's Governor-General Sandra Mason to make the state opening of Parliament on Tuesday. More than half a century after attaining independence from Britain, the time has come to fully leave our colonial past behind, Mason said. Barbadians want a Barbadian head of state, she said. This is the ultimate statement of confidence in who we are and what we are capable of achieving. Mason said Barbados will take the next logical step towards full sovereignty and become a republic by the time we celebrate our 55th anniversary of independence, which will be marked on November 30, 2021. When asked about the speech, a Buckingham Palace spokesman said, "This is a matter for the government and people of Barbados. Queen Elizabeth II is head of state of the United Kingdom and 15 other formerly British-ruled countries, where she is represented by the Governor-General." More European news now, where the troubling number of migrants in Europe and their desperate condition, as mostly seen on the island of Lesbos in Greece, are pushing the European Commission to rethink its strategy towards the handling of refugees. The EU chief has called for action, stating that migration is a European challenge and all of Europe must do its part. A reform plan is expected to be presented on September 23. She proposes to replace the current regulation under which asylum seekers claims are handled in the country of entry. The proposed plan is to have common structures on asylum and return, and a new strong solidarity mechanism. Member states have diverging opinions on the matter of refugees. In recent years, some have refused to accept the relocation of asylum seekers into their countries. Following the recent fire at the overcrowded camp in Greece, 10 European countries have agreed to receive some 400 unaccompanied children. Germany is the most open, as it is accepting more than 1,500 people, mainly families, and another 140 unaccompanied minors. We go to Sweden now, and how we have a report on how Sweden's approach to COVID-19. So far, Sweden has more than 87,000 cases and no less than 5,800 deaths due to COVID-19. This is one of the highest per capita death rates if compared globally between January and May. Out of the 3,400 or so fatalities, almost half of the victims were elderly people, stirring controversy and questions on the country's approach in fighting the virus. At the end of April, the health minister even acknowledged that the deaths were a failure for society as a whole. Sweden's strategy against COVID-19 has been different compared to most of its neighboring countries. A strict lockdown has never been imposed. Instead, the population is called to take responsibility towards physical distancing, maintaining strict hygiene, and self-isolation when symptoms occur. Unlike more and more countries, there is neither instruction nor recommendation to wear masks. Some of the few measures in place are a ban on public gatherings of 50 people or more, and on visits to elderly care homes. This week, the government announced that they will be lifting the ban on retirement home visits as from October. The health minister asked that those showing symptoms avoid visiting so that everyone can continue taking responsibility. The decision to lift the ban on elderly care home visits comes following the decline in cases since June. It's time for a break now, but please come back to more ENI UK and Europe edition.
Ngayong Sabado sa Tagisan ng Galing.
Grabe, sa pool kami.
At least, good vibes, diritan at boses na pangmalakasan ang mangingibabaw ngayong Sabado. Kaya naman, tutok na sa Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 Singing Edition.
Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is co-presented by Cooper, an expert in air conditioning and electromechanical, also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Our sponsors, BDO, we find ways. JRC Industrial Sales, RS Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation, Robus Builders, Villa Casares, Chris Rack Enterprises, Victory Carpentry, DOP Asiatic Pest Control Services, and AUB Aspire for the Future in partnership with New Era University ETAP, Expanded Tertiary Education, Equivalency and Accreditation Program. Embrace Cafe, we embrace differently abled persons.
Welcome back to ENI UK and Europe edition. Now for more interesting stories from the United Kingdom. We are joined now by Love and Season, who's having a report on the new tourist attraction in the UK. Hello, Love Anne, how are you?
Hi, Giancarlo, and thank you. So yes, it's at this time of the year, many huge cruise liners are usually packed with tourists and cruising the Mediterranean and Caribbean islands in the summer. Due to the pandemic, they have turned into ghost ships that can be seen off the southern coast of England. Paul Durham, who runs a ferry company in Dorset, has started offering unusual tours of these vessels attracting many curious visitors. So let's listen.
Well, we came out of stage 2, which is quite hard to remember when that was, but it was early June, and we weren't carrying many passengers on our ferry route from Muddyford Quay to Muddyford Beach. So I just made a broadcast one day. Anybody want to go and see the cruise liners out there, those ships? And I was surprised. So many hands went up. I thought, oh, we might be able to do something here. So we advertised it, and we put on 4 trips.
We live locally, and we've seen this advertised, and we just thought, oh, that sounds really fun, and I thought we'd better get it in before Boris locks us down.
I've done 6 of these trips to see the cruise ships, because they're quite often different cruise ships out, and I do love looking at them. I'm a regular cruiser, so it's fun to look at the ships when they're here.
So the cruise industry was affected early in the pandemic when the virus first swept the Diamond Princess in Japan and then the Grand Princess in the US. And hundreds of people were hit with the virus on board, and because of this, passengers were quarantined at sea. Now, canceled holidays were inevitable, leaving boats empty and had to go somewhere. The ships have been anchoring off the coast of Portsmouth to Plymouth, and at night they light up the horizon. Now, the arrival of the UK's empty ships has changed the view from the coast, and this fascinated locals and visitors alike. They have now become a tourist attraction in their own right, with people willing to pay to see them up close. Now, realizing that there may be a demand, Muddyford Ferry Company started to offer tours of the ghost ships by sailing out and around them. Giancarlo?
Thank you, Lavan. This is all very new. How popular is this unusual attraction?
Well, according to Paul Durham, the captain at Muddyford Ferry, when he came up with the idea, it was posted on Facebook and advertised only for 2 trips. And then it was filled up within 2 hours. So, Giancarlo, it was an immediate hit. And these days, they are getting about 80 to 100 calls a day and have been advertising upcoming trips up to 12, 24, or 48 hours before the trip. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Great. Can we ask what would people be expecting to see on this tour?
Well, it's a 2.5-hour tour, so they get to see the anchored ships in the English Channel's full bay, and then have an unobstructed view of these big boats, and can cruise up to 50 meters away from these giants. Now, during the tour, the captain shares his experience on the seas, including an actual sea rescue.
Why have so many of these empty boats ended up on the English Channel?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, as featured in the BBC, ships have to pay fees to berth, and this means that for an industry already damaged, they would be losing even more money if they dock ports. But it is ultimately their choice to whether cruise ships can anchor off the coast or alongside the port, according to a spokesman for the Port of Southampton. But space also can be a problem. Southampton has 4 cruise ships terminals and can take up to 6 maximum. P&O said its ships remain in the sea because Southampton, which is also its home port, does not have room for all of them. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you so much, Lavan, for that interesting report today.
And thank you for having me. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Love and Season, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, now we go to Ashley Spiritu, who will report on London theatres reopening its doors. Hello, Ashley.
Hello, Giancarlo. Thank you. Yes, Claire Houghton is excited about stepping foot in a theatre for the first time since the coronavirus brought the curtain down on live shows in London in March. I missed it, she admitted, as she waited to watch the musical Sleepless, the first major production launch in the British capital since restrictions were partially lifted. I missed the whole experience, even the meal before the show, going to the stage show after the show. The 36-year-old told AFP. Let's take a listen.
So if you're an audience member that's turning up at this theatre, we have an email that goes out with a video which shows all the measures, security measures and COVID secure measures that we put in place, from hand sanitizing, from the checks to the temperature checks to checking your bag, all contactless. There is a social distance seating plan in place, which reduces the theatre down from 1,200 capacity to 400 capacity. And all of those is you'll see that they're grouped from 4 people coming together as a group to 2 people to 1 people. And we've basically made it so that there is a 2-metre distance between each person sitting down that ensures that they are safe from sitting within the correct social distance from those people in the audience too. Us to cover the cost, but I think it's the first step in showing that performances can continue and can go on, and with careful consideration and planning, these productions can happen as we've shown. But
no, it seems so far very well done. Outside they checked us over when we gave our telephone numbers for the security.
And here so far it looks okay.
Fine.
Something live again, whether it's a musical. We like everything, musicals, plays. So it's just nice to be back in a live theatre, really. It's a great part of our lives.
It's a long time, a very long time since we were last here.
Yep. For self-professed massive theatre fans like Houghton, who was wearing a t-shirt with the slogan "The show must go on," the 6-month wait to see live performances has been hard, but measures to keep audiences safe are deteriorating. At the Troubadour in Wembley Park, northwest London, on Thursday night, theatre-goers had their temperatures taken and were told to wear face masks throughout the performance. Most British theatres are still closed, but the pop-up venue in the shadow of the colourful landmark arc of the National Stadium has been able to adapt to social distancing rules. As mentioned, its 1,200 capacity has been cut to only 400 seats, and a one-way route has been put in place, along with hand washing and disinfectant facilities, and the audience didn't seem to mind. Precautions are taken backstage too. Every day the production team has a saliva test to determine if they have the virus. Results come back within 45 minutes. We're doing more than anyone else to keep people safe within the venue, said Rowley Gregg, Chief Operations Officer of Troubadour Theatres. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you, Ashley. Are there any other London theatres that have been reopened since the lockdown?
Giancarlo, Rowley Gregg continued to say that they're the only major theatre performance that is putting a show of this size. You may see that there's other performances with one individual on stage, but for this, it's a full-on production with 20 to 25 cast members. The situation at the Troubadour contrasts sharply with London's West End theatre district just 10 miles away. Hit musicals such as The Lion King, Hamilton, or The Phantom of the Opera have still not resumed, and tourists who usually buy the tickets are now absent. Outdoor theatre and streaming of shows has been happening, but difficulties in enforcing social distancing in all the indoor venues and the effect on bottom lines is a hindrance. We're at the point of no return, British composer and theatre impresario Andrew Lloyd Webber told a parliamentary culture committee earlier this week. We simply have to get our art sector back opening and running, he added, outlining the huge effects on performers and production crews alike. An acquaintance he knew, one of the finest viola players he said he knows, was now working at a supermarket to make ends meet, he told lawmakers. There comes a point now when we finally can't go on much more, he said, urging the government to commit to a firm timetable for reopening. Overall, theatres and concert venues are facing a £3 billion shortfall in revenues this year, a hit of more than 60%, a study by Oxford predicted in June. But plans to reopen more public events have now been put on hold as infection rates surge again and approach nearly 3,000 positive cases per day. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has tried to inject some hope by outlining plans for a huge increase in rapid testing, which would allow these who test negative to take their seat. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for that interesting lifestyle report.
Thank you so much, Giancarlo. I'm Ashley Spiritu, EBC correspondent from London, United Kingdom, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, it's time for another break now, but please come back for more ENI UK and Europe edition.
Want to earn a degree while you work? New Era University now offers Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP. ETIAP is an educational scheme that recognizes knowledge, skills, and prior learning obtained by individuals from non-formal and informal education experiences. It is implemented through deputized higher educational institutions like the New Era University that awards the appropriate degrees. Programs offered are the following: Master's Program, Masters of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management, Master's Program in Business Administration, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Political Science, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Mass Communication, Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Filipino, major in English, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with majors in Human Resources Development, Marketing Management, and Financial Management. Beneficiaries must be Filipinos who have attained at least high school level of education. The program is flexible and you don't need to attend regular classes. Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, is under the supervision of Dr. Nilo L. Rosas, the University President, and Professor Anita P. Santos, Director of ETIAP. For more information, contact the following: Cristina Moreno, 0995-138-0786, or email cvmoreno@neu.edu.ph, or Arlene Sarmiento, 0906-298-9150, or email cedctl@neu.edu.ph. What are you waiting for? Let New Era University be your partner in achieving your dreams.
Welcome back to ENI UKN Europe Edition. Now for some interesting stories from around Europe. We have a report now by Jessica Kalau from Frankfurt, Germany, on the online seminar that the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ members within Germany and Switzerland held about brotherhood. Let's watch her report.
Without a doubt, the year 2020 is full of challenges that caught many off guard. The pandemic that is still present nowadays has had far-reaching effects beyond the spread of the disease itself. In fact, it made a serious impact on people's day-by-day lives, having to adapt to the new normal by taking precautions such as wearing masks or keeping social distancing. Therefore, it has made an impact on people's relationships with each other, being unable to see their families, friends, and loved ones in person due to lockdown restrictions. In order to keep connected with each other, youth members of the Church of Christ in Central Europe continuously conduct various online activities.
With the help of modern technology, youth members of Germany and Switzerland held an online seminar about brotherhood.
Since the government lockdown due to the pandemic, the physical contact between the brethren has been cut off. The brotherhood is a good way for us to stay connected with one another and thus caring for each other despite the ongoing pandemic.
Love of the brotherhood is still relevant because right now we're in the midst of a pandemic and we don't get to see each other in person, but through means of technology, we found a way to socialize and to connect with each other.
It was emphasized during the meeting that personalities may vary, that some are introverts and some extroverts, and that this can sometimes spark misunderstandings. But despite differences, they have been taught different ways on how to strengthen the bond between each other, by communicating properly and showing respect to one another.
To uphold the love of the brotherhood means to give each brethren a feeling of reassurance no matter which times we are facing.
Holding the brotherhood means being genuine to one another. In that way, the brethren understand and care for each other.
For me, brotherhood means unity.
To uphold the brotherhood, we must respect one another and always be kind. Through the leadership of Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, I believe that brotherhood is still relevant at this moment because it keeps all of the brethren united around the world, and we never lose our faith and hope.
In the end, participants were given the chance to reflect why brotherhood is still relevant and what it means for them, especially during this unprecedented time.
Brotherhood is love,
respect,
unity.
The online seminar taught the meaning of brotherhood and why it is important to uphold it, especially during this pandemic. Understanding other people and continuing to communicate were highlighted to maintain the solidarity with one another and stay connected. I am Jessica Kahlo, reporting from Frankfurt, Germany, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Jessica and EBC Germany, for that report. And now it's time to go to Switzerland as we set foot on the Sigriswil Bridge. This report is by Theodoline Weisser. Let's watch her report.
Sigriswil Bridge is one of the longest suspension bridges in Switzerland. The suspension bridge is 340 meters long and 180 meters high. It is located in the small town of Sigriswil near Thun in the canton of Bern. On your way up the bridge, you can already start enjoying the scenery and imagine how even more beautiful the view will be from up there. With a breathtaking view of the Bernese Alps and Lake Thun, you will forget your fear of heights. There are 3 ways to get here: by car, bus, and hiking trails. The suspension bridge is also a go-to location because of a hit Korean drama. On foot, it would maybe take approximately 8 minutes to cross the bridge. But it takes more time in the end because you can't get enough of the view. I am Theodoline Weisser, EBC correspondent from Gstaad, Switzerland, and we live in interesting time.
European men continue their dominance of the tennis scene as Austrian Dominic Thiem produced an historic comeback to beat Germany's Alexander Zverev in a nervy 5-setter and win the US Open on Sunday for his first Grand Slam title. The second-seeded Austrian beat the 5th seed in 4 hours and 2 minutes inside a near-empty Arthur Ashe Stadium. It marked the first time in the US Open era that a player had recovered from losing the opening 2 sets to win the title. It was also the first time the final had been settled by a tiebreaker. The title marks Thiem's maiden Grand Slam trophy after 3 previous defeats in the finals of tennis majors. Dominic was runner-up at the Australian Open earlier this year, and he had also lost the last two showdowns at the French Open in 2018 and 2019. He also became the first Grand Slam champion since the Croatian Marian Cilic won at Flushing Meadows in 2014. Dominic Thiem is also the first Grand Slam champion, other than Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, or Roger Federer, known as the Big Three, since Switzerland's Stan Wawrinka won the third of his majors at the 2016 US Open. Zverev, the German, smashed 4 aces and 16 winners in the first set as he displayed an impressive serve and volley game to take a 1-0 lead in just 30 minutes. The German was helped by some sloppy play from Dominic Thiem, who hit 3 double faults as he was broken twice in games 3 and 7. In the second set, Zverev wasted 3 set points while he was 5-1 up but held on to take a 2-sets-to-love lead in the fifth set point. The tide was beginning to turn, though, as Zverev's play became increasingly cagey, as his suspect second serve got slower, and his forehand, another weakness, became more defensive. After Thiem easily took set 4, Zverev found himself serving for the championship at 5-3 in the fifth set, but he could not hold on, and soon Thiem found himself 6-5 ahead. He took a medical timeout before it was his turn to serve for the championship. However, like Zverev moments earlier, Thiem failed to clinch the match. It went to the tiebreak. Thiem also found himself 5-3 up after 2 double faults by Zverev, but Thiem, by now exhausted and limping, blew those 2 championship points. He eventually won the title on his 3rd championship point and collapsed on the court with his head in his hands. The match was watched by just a few dozen people, mostly officials, journalists, and event staff, after the coronavirus pandemic forced the tournament to be held only behind closed doors. This year's field at the Billie Jean King U.S. National Tennis Center in New York was depleted by the absence of Swiss legend Roger Federer and defending champion Rafael Nadal. The tournament was also blown wide open by the disqualification of world number 1 and the heavy favorite Novak Djokovic in the last 16 for hitting a line judge with the ball. But we congratulate Dominic Thiem on his first Grand Slam title, and we look forward to seeing how many more he can win in the future. We end today's show with our view from a window. This week we go to Isenswald in Switzerland again. It's an old-fashioned fishing village with only 400 inhabitants that lies on the delta of the southern shore of Lake Finns in the Bernese Oberland region of Switzerland. It is known for its very unique charm and the beautiful little flower-covered cottages and cobbled streets. It's actually considered as part of the inventory of Swiss heritage sites, and it can be reached either by car, boat, or on foot. It offers a breathtaking view which combines the turquoise water of the lake and the different shades of vibrant green from the mountains and forests. The village is a popular destination for backpackers and skiers in the region. However, today it has also become more popular because of a famous scene from a K-drama where the main character played the piano on the pontoon. Therefore, it attracts a lot of tourists for pictures. This video was courtesy of EBC Switzerland. What a great view. We thank you for this view and we hope you stay safe and keep positive. That's our show for this week. We will be back next week once again for more of the top stories from around the United Kingdom and Europe. I'm Jakar Matera. Thank you for watching, and we live in interesting times.